During this video presentation, I'll be talking about the different physiological effects of age on the body systems. So unfortunately, as our bodies begin to age, nobody can avoid it, the body systems begin to slow down and become a lot weaker, which has huge influential impacts on sporting performance and also just everyday life. So during this presentation, I'll be going through the different changes in the body systems, how they affect sporting performance, and also what can be done to potentially slow down the weakening of the different body systems. So I'm going to start off by talking about the endocrine system, so how the endocrine system changes. So as we age, the endocrine system slows down, which has an effect of reducing the production of certain hormones in the body. So the endocrine system is obviously the system that's responsible for producing hormone production in the body. So some of the hormones that decrease as we age are estrogen, testosterone, melatonin, which is a hormone that regulates sleep and wake cycles, and also human growth hormone, which is a peptide hormone that stimulates the growth of bone, muscles, and is also responsible for cell production and regeneration. So a bit of a graph to represent the decline of human growth hormone with age is on the right hand side. As you can see, it represents a constant decline of HGH as we age, and obviously becomes a lot lower, the production of it becomes a lot lower as we get older. So a few of the negative effects on sporting performance are it reducing energy levels. So mainly this is due to the reducing melatonin. So melatonin reducing has a negative effect on elderly people's sleeping patterns, so they might not get as much sleep and struggle sleeping. So therefore, when it comes to doing exercise, they might feel a lot more fatigued and their energy levels might be lower. And I've also got confidence decreasing and also feeling a lot weaker. So maybe due to the reducing human growth hormone, muscle growth might decrease, so they might just generally feel a lot weaker. However, this can kind of be altered. Hormone replacement therapy can take place. So hormone replacement therapy has an effect of improving estrogen levels in women and testosterone in men, for example. And it can be done through examples like skin patches, gels, injections, and implants. So basically, all it is putting more hormones into the body. So because the endocrine system slows down, the production is slower. As an alternative, hormones can be put into the body through examples like skin patches, gels, injections, and implants. You can get tablets. However, experts believe that it can have a negative effect on the liver, and using other methods bypasses the liver and gets the hormone into the blood a lot more directly. So the use of injections or implants, it gets the hormone into the blood directly a lot easier and bypasses the liver. So now we're going to move on to the skeletal system. So the main changes in the skeletal system as we age is people lose bone mass or density, especially women after menopause. And the bones also lose calcium and other minerals that help maintain strength of the bone. So some of the effect of change, our bones become a lot more brittle and more vulnerable to breaking. So this is partly due to the loss in calcium. So obviously calcium is crucial for bone strength, and a loss in this can make bones become a lot weaker. Osteoporosis occurs a lot easier with older people. So this is a bone disease that becomes a lot more common in older people, and it has a negative effect of making bones a lot easier to break. And a little fact is about 1/2 of women over the age of 50 will have a fracture of the hip, wrist, or vertebrae during their lifetime. So that kind of proves how much weaker bones become as people age. So as you age, your body may reabsorb calcium phosphate from your bones instead of keeping the minerals in your bones, and this also makes your bones a lot weaker. So your bones are a kind of built-in storage system for calcium. If your body doesn't get what it needs from your diet, your parathyroid glands secrete parathyroid hormone, and this signals the bones to release calcium into circulation. The only place the body stores calcium is in your bones. Calcium absorbed in the bones becomes part of the bone matrix, and there it makes bones strong and fracture resistant. However, obviously, without your bones become a lot weaker and more fragile, which is what I've been saying happens with age. So with that lack of calcium, it consequently makes the bones a lot weaker. And obviously the effect of sport is any kind of impact contact sports. There's a lot of higher chance of snapping a bone. So obviously playing rugby, you very rarely see older people getting involved in rugby just due to the stress that it can have on the bones. But a few ways of prevention are exercise at a moderate intensity. That doesn't put high levels of stress on the bones, and it allows them to help them stay strong. So any kind of sport that's low in impact, so that kind of a low intensity, will help the bones strengthen. And also it is important to eat a well-balanced diet with plenty of calcium to help with maintaining healthy bones. So obviously, as I said, your body may reabsorb calcium and phosphate from your bones. But obviously, if you try and keep eating as much calcium as you can and getting calcium into your body, that will obviously have a big effect on the amount of calcium your bones are getting, which is obviously really important to help them becoming less brittle. So now moving on to the muscle system. So as you age, pre-sarcopenia and sarcopenia can occur. So pre-sarcopenia is the start of muscle mass loss, and that begins at the age of around 30. And also sarcopenia is the decline in muscle mass, and as well as that, a loss of strength. So a loss of strength is partly from the loss of motor units as you age. So motor units help towards the strength of a muscular contraction, and obviously if you're losing those motor units, your muscles can't produce as strong of a contraction when you need them to. So a few factors towards sarcopenia are a lower intake in protein as you age. So muscles and tendons, a big effect of that is obviously muscles and tendons taking a lot longer to repair. And also, if you don't use your muscles regularly as you age, there is a higher chance of sarcopenia due to the fact that when you move and you exercise, it keeps fluid moving and it stops the cartilage from stiffening. So if you're really stationary as you're older, there's a higher chance of your cartilage and your joints stiffening up. So obviously the fact is at least 50% of age-related muscle changes are caused from disuse, which backs up my point quite significantly that if you're not moving as you get older, you are gonna there's going to be a huge impact in sarcopenia and muscle joints and cartilage stiffening up. So also the number of muscle fibers that contract faster decrease much more than the number of muscle fibers that contract slower. So therefore muscles are not able to contract as quickly and effectively in old age. So additionally, mobility and flexibility decreases massively, partly due to a decrease in movement. So obviously mobility and flexibility, like I've just said before, if you're not moving, your joints are going to become a lot stiffer. So the connective tissues within ligaments and tendons become more rigid and brittle, which has a big effect on general range of movement. So your general range of movement and flexibility can decrease. And obviously, therefore, sports like gymnastics and dance are much more suited to younger people, which is proven by the 20 being the average age gymnast in the London 2012 Olympic Games. So 20 was the average age for gymnasts in London 2012, which shows that sports like gymnastics or dance are a lot more suited to younger people. And also anaerobic exercise becomes a lot harder and causes more strain on the body's muscles. So because the muscles take longer to repair and there's not as much muscle mass, it can cause a lot more strain on the body. So ways to prevent the rate of muscle loss. Older people can increase muscle mass and strength through muscular strengthening activities. So at a lower intensity, not as much weight, it won't have as much of a negative effect on the muscles, but it will still help with general strengthening. And also water exercise is a perfect way of maintaining muscle mass slightly without putting strain on the weaker joints. So obviously when you're in the water you can do lots of exercises which will help towards strengthening of the muscles and keeping them healthy, and obviously there's no impact on the muscles when you're in the water. It's a lot more free flowing, so therefore it won't damage the muscles either. So now we're talking about thermoregulation and metabolism. So this is kind of a general change in the body, but it still is quite influential in sporting performance and everyday life. So start off with metabolism. So metabolism is obviously the name for the process that your body uses to convert the food you eat into energy. So the energy your body does not use is stored as fat. The thermogenesis is the food processing part of your metabolism. It actually stays fairly steady throughout your adult life. So the thought around metabolism decreasing as you age is actually due to muscle mass decreasing and the amount of fat you put on tending to increase. So as you age, it's a lot easier to put on fat, and also because you lose muscle mass, people think that metabolism increases, but actually it can be due to muscle mass decreasing and the amount of fat being able to be put on as you age. So a decrease in BMR means it's a lot easier for you to put on weight when eating fewer calories. So now in terms of thermoregulation, as you age, sweat glands weaken, which consequently means elderly people have a delay in sweating and they struggle to lose heat. So sweat glands, when performing exercise in high temperatures, obviously is a way of releasing heat and cooling the body down. Our bodies sweat, it's a natural thing to happen, but as you age, all these sweat glands around your body actually weaken and the rate at which you sweat becomes a lot slower. So when it comes to performing exercise in heat, elderly people need to be really careful because their bodies aren't as good at thermoregulating and releasing that heat. So quite an important fact to prove thermoregulation changing is it takes elderly people twice as long to return to normal temperature after being to extreme heat or cold. And also finally, due to blood vessels stiffening, it decreases the effect of vasoconstriction and vasodilation. So vasoconstriction is obviously blood vessels contracting, when people get cold, and vasodilation is them expanding when people get hot, and these are a way of thermoregulating the body. But due to the blood vessels stiffening, this actually isn't as effective as people get older. So now moving on to the cardiovascular system. So some of the changes in the CV system as we age, heart loses elasticity and there's a decrease in rate. There's an increase in blood pressure due to baroreceptors becoming less sensitive.